Well, good afternoon and welcome to this Playbook Convention Special Edition. I'm Anna Palmer, co-author of the Politico Playbook, and I'm joined by Jake Sherman, Playbook co-author as well. It's the second day of a very historic DNC, the first all-virtual political convention, and we want to welcome Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who's joining us from California. We also want to thank the American Institute of Architects for sponsoring the conversation today. Please join me in welcoming Jane Friedrich, the 2020 president of the American Institute of Architects.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jane Friedrich, 2020 president of the American Institute of Architects. It's an honor to support this important event and introduce the Speaker of the United States House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi. I look forward to hearing her thoughts in a few minutes. AIA's 95,000 strong members remain committed to working toward a nation and a world that is healthier, safer, equitable, and sustainable. As the bipartisan voice of architecture at the federal, state, and local levels, we look forward to working with everyone interested in designing the future-built environment that improves individual health and prepares communities to thrive in the years ahead. Ensuring that our economy prioritizes job creation and equitable access to opportunities. Advancing efforts that finally end the United States' centuries-long legacy of structural racism and gender inequality, and finding and implementing real-world solutions that address the climate crisis. The challenges of this moment in our history may be urgent and formidable, but they're also an opportunity to work together to create a future that is healthier, safer, equitable, and sustainable for everyone, everywhere. This election, set against the backdrop of our current challenges, is a reminder of our shared responsibility to establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. For architects, those words have added meaning because of our oath to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the public. AIA looks forward to discussions during this election year and beyond to advance our shared vision of a brighter, fairer, healthier, and more sustainable future through the power of design that we all deserve. Thank you.
Madam Speaker, thank you again for joining us with a lot to cover here in 30 minutes. So we're going to dive right into it. California has the Speaker of the House, which is you, and now the Democratic vice presidential candidate, San Francisco's own Kamala Harris. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about your relationship with Senator Harris and what you think she brings to the ticket.
Good morning, Jake. Morning, Anna. Morning here in California. First, I would love to talk about that. It's an exciting topic for all of us. But first, I want to thank Jane for her beautiful statement and thank the American Institute of Architects, AIA, for their leadership. Over the years, working with them has been so refreshing because they have the beauty of design, the commitment to sustainability, and again, anything we talk about, whether we talk about the climate change, we talk about the climate crisis, environmental injustice, we talk about housing, we talk about density and proximity to work, all of those things. The AIA has been on the forefront. And to quote the Constitution as a provenance for their value system it is very authentic. And Jane's leadership and her commitment to a better future through design, through meeting the housing needs, among other needs of our community in a way that sustains the planet. I feel very honored that they are sponsoring this. I don't know if it's the whole series, but this presentation today. Yes, I'm sitting in front of, speaking of design, what is called the Painted Ladies. These Victorian homes are one of the most photographed, they tell me, pieces of architecture anywhere, and very recognizable as San Francisco. And here we're very proud, of course, of Kamala Harris, born in Oakland across the bay, and our district attorney here in San Francisco. She will bring to the campaign, but more importantly, to the vice presidency and to the White House, values similarly expressed by Jane there about our Constitution, of which she has been a knowledgeable defender, about our future, of which she is the face of. And we're all very excited about her being the vice presidential candidate. Now, there are others who have made history. Geraldine Ferraro, nominated here in San Francisco. I was chair of the host committee. That was thunderous when she was nominated to be vice president. The Republicans had their nominee, but this nominee will be more than history. She will be vice president. She will be history, and she will be progress.
Well, Speaker, we are here in the middle of this convention week, a celebratory time for Democrats, but many can't quite shake that feeling that Trump is going to potentially win again. They have a point. 2016, Trump surprised a lot of us with a victory that even you didn't foresee. What do you say to those that are concerned that the president could pull off a win in November?
Well, first, let me congratulate the Democratic National Committee on a great opening night. I just overwhelmed by every aspect of it. Inspirationally, of course, by Michelle Obama, and what a masterful presentation of her values, and what a display of generosity of spirit that she would present the way she did. Really a tour de force. And Bernie Sanders, was he not fabulous? I mean, he really put it out there with all the values and the practical politics of what we have to do. And of course, I was very proud of all the House members who were very well represented in the course of it. And perhaps we'll go more into that. But to your question, there's no question that we are prepared to win the election if the election were held today. We'd increase our numbers in the House, we win the Senate, and most importantly, because the fate of the nation is riding on our winning the White House. But the election isn't today. And will the Republicans put up every obstacle to participation that they can? You see what they're doing with the post office. You see what they're doing with the accepting foreign influence into the election. The list goes on. But you know what? When the president says what he says, forget about him. He's just trying to scare people. And people cannot be scared. We had an earlier meeting where Eric Holder, with many of our supporters, what Eric Holder said, everybody should have a plan on how they should work. And we all agree that plan should be vote early, so that they cannot stand in the way of your vote being counted as cast. So again, if they lie, cheat, and steal, which they seem fully prepared to do, we will be, unlike 2016, vigilant, prepared, and we have our plan to win, engineering back from the 77 days from today, 11 weeks, engineering back for what we have to do to win. But our message is, don't pay attention to what the president said. He just wants you to think your vote doesn't count, but you know that it does.
Madam Speaker, what are you? That's a pretty remarkable statement, which I've heard you say before. But what concerns you the most right now, 11 weeks from Election Day? You speak about lying, cheating, and stealing. What is the most concerning to you? Obviously, the post office is up there, and we want to get to that. Excuse me, in a minute. What else is concerning to you about this election and what you believe the Republicans might do?
Well, let us just say we have our plan. You know, I wear my hat as the former chair of the California Democratic Party. So grassroots organizing is where I have sprung from into the political arena. We know how to get out the vote, even in these virtual times, what we need to do it. But in terms of your question, the post office really in this time of the coronavirus is election central. It really is where the action will be. And that's why they're trying to disrupt it in such a blatant way. But they hit a nerve. They hit a nerve with the American people. They hit a nerve that is one of the sinews of connecting the American people. We were colonies until we had a postal system that connected us to strengthen us as a nation as we went forward. This means everything. It hits home for people. So they have actually, in their horror of what they want to do to the postal system, remember this, 1.2 billion prescriptions were delivered by the Postal Service last year in 2019, before coronavirus. Almost well over 80, 90 some percent of the prescriptions that are delivered by from the VA, the VA, somebody handed me a note. The Reuters reporting Postmaster General paused all operational reforms after outcry. Well, he should. But nearly 100% of the VA drugs were delivered by mail. This is when people get their medicine 6 days late. It makes a difference to their health, to their lives, to their sense of security. So we will put into law what we need to see to protect the postal system. And that is a health issue now, even more so because of the coronavirus. People shouldn't have to choose between voting and their health. They should be able to vote by mail.
We're going to talk more about the Postal Service for sure a little bit later, but I do want to get to, the president has talked a lot about different things with the Postal Service yesterday in Minnesota. He also brought you up on the campaign trail. Yeah. The president said, "You don't love America." You've been serving this country, Madam Speaker, since 1987. What's your reaction to the president's comments?
Every time the president says something as disgusting as that, which is frequent, I think he's projecting his own sentiment. I'm raised in Baltimore, Maryland, in Little Italy in Baltimore, Maryland. My father was in Congress when I was born. He was the mayor. In our family, we were devoutly Catholic, proud of our Italian-American heritage, fiercely patriotic, as most immigrant families are, fiercely patriotic, and in our case, staunchly democratic. So the love of America is in our DNA and in our neighborhood. And my great-grandmother lived at the Flag House in Baltimore, where one of the flags of the War of 1812 was made. So we have our ties. Don't pay attention to him. It's really a sad thing. In fact, in terms of loving America, I think I can say without any fear of contradiction that I have a greater respect for the office of president than the current occupant of the White House.
Do you think now, you have both the presidential election to focus on, you also have the majority, and you're defending your majority for the first time since 2010 when Republicans took over. I'm curious what the banner headline is for House Democrats going into 2020. What is that message that you're carrying out to the American people?
Well, when we won in 2018 and showed that, left to our own devices, this was our year, no presidential anything, that our message would prevail. Of course, we worked with our colleagues in the Senate as well. And our message then was for the people. For the people, we would lower the cost of healthcare by lowering the cost of prescription drugs and preserving the pre-existing condition benefit. For the people, we would lift up paychecks, lower healthcare costs, bigger paychecks by building the infrastructure of America in a green way. And for the people, we would help healthier government, cleaner government by passing, which we did, H.R. 1, to remove the special interest privileges that this campaign system allows, and honor some of John Lewis's proposals to remove obstacles of participation, and in fact, including the Voting Rights Act. So that was our winning message. Healthcare, healthcare, healthcare were the three most important issues in that campaign, and that was before coronavirus, and that still remains a focal point for us. Of course, we will, building the infrastructure in a green way, the climate issue, the rest, they're all health issues, actually, clean air, clean water. And we will, of course, follow the lead and work and hope they follow ours as well with the Biden Harris ticket and their message, Build America Better. And as their message evolves, our members have the framework when they're talking about health and they're talking about jobs and they're talking about climate and they're talking about cleaner government and the rest. They have the framework to present their case in their districts. So if the election were today, the headline would be Democrats increase their number as we protect our incumbents. Remember this, if you want to talk politics, remember this. When we won 40 seats in 2018, people said, is it going to be a wave or a tsunami? I said, whatever it is, it's little drops of water. And all of those many of those races were very close. 31 of the seats we won then were Trump districts. He wasn't on the ballot. So a lot of his people didn't turn out. He is on the ballot now, so many of his people would turn out. So we have to fight to hold those 31 seats that are Trump districts, as well as protect some of our other incumbents, as well as grow our numbers. So we're not taking anything for granted. We intend, under the leadership of Sherry Bustos, our chair, to own the ground with our mobilization, not yield one grain of sand. That now is the virtual ground, and we're ready for that. We're prepared to have our message be progressive and bold and non-menacing as we go into the districts that we need to win, as well as to help win other races, governors, state houses, and of course, the United States Senate, and most of all, the Electoral College to win the White House. But our conversation with our members is we have to put one good day in front of another. No wasted time, no underutilized resources, and no regrets the day after the election.
There's a lot of frustration. I think if you look big picture at what's happening in Washington, a lot of Americans feel like the system is broken. Should Joe Biden win, do you think he should seek to work with Republicans and revive, the bipartisan Senate, or try to push through as much as possible in year one by getting rid of the filibuster, as some of their Democrats have already voiced support of?
Well, let me just say that when I was sworn in as Speaker this year, I said we're going to govern in a way that has transparency, bipartisanship, and is unifying for the country. So while I am a staunch Democrat, being a Democrat means you respect other people's point of view. And I know that that's where Joe Biden is. We have a responsibility to find our common ground. We know that. But we have our beliefs as well. And if we can't find common ground, then we have to stand our ground. So I think it'll be both. I don't even get into changing rules in the Senate. That's not I respect whatever the Senate Democrats decide about that. But we first have to win the Senate. Very essential, not only for policy, which would be reason enough, but for the third branch of government, the courts, that the Republicans have completely made just puppets of Trump.
Now, Madam Speaker, I just want to follow up on that point quickly. You've taken to saying recently, and after this most recent round of COVID relief legislation, that the Republicans, as you see it, just don't have the same values as Democrats. Right. Broad proposition. I mean, it doesn't seem. We've always been a little bit skeptical. Anna and I have been skeptical that somehow the election of Joe Biden is going to reignite an era of bipartisanship in the Senate. Are we right to have that skepticism?
Oh, I think in the absence of Trump, I mean, it's shameful how the Republicans just are his lapdog. I said he is doggy-doo on their shoe, and he's going to be there for a very long time. And one day his children, especially their daughters or their granddaughters, are going to say to them, what did you ever do or say when he said this about women? What did you ever do or say when he was denial about climate? You know the array that children and grandchildren will ask their grandparents, mostly grandfathers, but some grandmothers, about the doggy-doo that is still stinking on their shoe for years later. With him gone, I think some of the senators, although they share his view, I mean, they are not, 25 of them, I think it is the number now, don't want to spend one more dollar on COVID assistance. So, they're not so far apart policy-wise. But personally, I don't think they are in any way as, shall we say, Trump-like. That's I guess that isn't a compliment in my view, but that's the euphemism that I would say for him. So I do think, I do. We have to get things done for the American people. That's why we come here. And one of the regrets that I have is that because of the way things are with the Republicans now, we're missing the wonderful vitality of debate. We're confident in our point of view of the role of government. They are. Let's have that competition. Let's have that discussion. That's what our founders had in mind. And I say to my friends, take back your Republican friends, and I do have some, take back your party. This is not who you are. The grand old party has done so much for our country. Take back your party. You've been hijacked by these people who say things about other people which are only a projection of their own shortcomings. So I think better things are ahead in terms of transparency, in terms of bipartisanship, in terms of e pluribus unum, the guidance that our founders gave us. From many one, they couldn't imagine how many we would be or how different we would be from each other, but they knew that we had to always strive for oneness, that integrity that is America. And that's part of what Democrats are.
I want to bring it back to kind of what the news of the day, what you guys are facing right now. You are calling the House back into session this weekend for a vote on stopping the Trump administration from changing the post office operations. You've mentioned it several times, obviously top of mind, mail-in voting. Talk us through your strategy and what you see ultimately happening.
Well, in terms of the postal system?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, first of all, let's go to the Constitution, which is always our guide. Your president of AIA quoted the preamble of the Constitution in terms of the work of the AIA and the American Institute of Architects. And let's go to the Constitution. The postal system is in the Constitution of the United States, and the role of Congress is clear there as well. So this is something intrinsic to America. It's American, as what people used to say, apple pie, motherhood, baseball, all of that, the postal system. What the Republicans found out is they hit this nerve, as I say, that are the connective tissue of our country, our postal system. And again, it's a health issue, it's a communication issue, it's a jobs issue. 97, I think it's 97,000, but nearly 100,000 veterans work for the postal system. So in any case, they went down that path because, their role in life is always to privatize so they don't have to honor certain work requirements and the rest. And this is part of that. But in any event, they hit it at a really bad time. And you know what? That would have been any time because the American people are devoted. Over 90%. There's no agency of government as popular as postal. So from our standpoint, what we want to do is make a difference for the American people. There are people who've said, when you do the bill, put this on, put that on, put this on. I said, you know what? I don't want to give the Republicans any reason to vote against this because we want this to become law. We want the president to sign it. And important to note that the money that we have in there, the $25 billion, is what was recommended by the Board of Governors of the U.S. Postal System.
Does this
bipartisan, 100% appointed by Donald Trump, and they recommended $25 billion. So this was their number as to what was needed. That's what we have in the bill. And then we have other considerations about how they can't be bringing up trucks and taking away post office boxes or changing the processing machinery well, read the bill. You'll see the bill tonight. I think they will be releasing it. And it is in terms of the legislative language and the rest. But it is, so again, the strategy, Anna, is not to use this as a vehicle to put them on the spot. It was used to get results for the American people.
Now, I assume, just quickly, and then I have a question about COVID relief talks. I assume that even though you've gotten this headline that has come out since we've started that DeJoy is suspending some of these operational initiatives, I assume this bill is still necessary because, in your view, because it still has $25 billion and you want to prevent further changes. Is that a correct assumption? You still believe it's necessary?
Yeah, we want to roll them back. He calls them reforms. Reforms for what? I think it's really important for the American people to know this. When they talk about the Postal Service, they say, oh, they're losing money. We have to make this, and this. That's not the point. It's not a business. It's a service. It's a service spelled out in the Constitution of the United States, which overwhelmingly, largely pays for itself, but not completely. And one of the reasons is because a number of years ago, it was determined that the Postal Service, now think of this, Postal Service has to pay 75 years of health benefits into the future over 10 years. 75 years of benefits over 10 years. I ask any business to be able to do that. So if you want to call it a business, it's not. If you're making those kind of requirements, what business has to make 75 years of health benefits paid for in 10 years? So that's where some of the shortfall is. So again, we have to recognize it for what it is, a service, one that is, again, very popular, overwhelmingly pays for itself, and not to be deterred by a Republican plot to undermine the election in our country, to weaken the ability of the Postal Service to deliver the goods, that is the prescriptions that are, especially our seniors, but many Americans depend on. And so, again, it is, they felt the heat, and that's what we were trying to do, is to make it too hot for them to handle.
Madam
Speaker, trust them, we'll have it in the bill.
We both have one more question for you. The COVID relief talks that you were negotiating with Chuck Schumer and Mark Meadows and Stephen Mnuchin have largely fallen apart. You want them to come up $1 trillion. They say they don't want to. Now, in our estimation, it seems like the next kind of deadline would be the end of September when government funding runs dry. I'm curious if some of this, in your view, gets mixed into that discussion. Is that what we should expect?
I hope not. I hope that we could have agreement before then. We've told them there's no way that we can send our children to school safely unless we have more funding for education. I've told them that there's no way we can open our economy safely until we have more resources and better policy and a strategic plan for testing. We've told them that they are not, by not funding state and local governments adequately, that people will be laid off and they will go on to unemployment. So what are they saving there as they diminish the services that our heroes, that's why it's called the heroes, that our heroes, our healthcare workers, our first responders, our transportation, sanitation, food, our teachers are being laid off. Why? Because they have a philosophical difference. They've said to me, it's about tax policy. Why should one state have to pay for something that happens in another state? Welcome to the United States of America. Did you ever hear of Katrina, Ike, Maria, Joplin, Missouri, North Carolina flood, you name it? But Sandy, of course, Meadows didn't even vote for Sandy, so that shows you where they are, and that so many Republicans don't want to spend one more dollar. So we're just saying to them, just take schools. Anybody with children, my case, grandchildren, but I have children who are teachers. So you cannot send children to school unless it's going to be safe. The president, in his money, it's not just a difference of money, of which they are fall short, but fall short a great deal. Well, it isn't just that. What it is the president is saying in his proposal, and their proposal, and the bill that Mitch, after taking a pause of 2.5 months, pressed the pause button while the virus raged, it didn't pause. In his proposal, they said that overwhelming amount of money in the bill would go to schools that actually open. while at the same time, the 100 largest school districts in the country have said that about 75%, not percent, 75 of them, we're not talking percent, we're talking 100 number, over 75 of them will be, 62 of them totally virtual, and then another dozen or so virtual and actual, a hybrid. And the president is saying the money goes to those that are actually opening, which is a small percentage of the schools. Some have not decided yet, and then just a small percentage who will actually open. You can do all of it if you had the money for separation, for more teachers, for better ventilation, for testing. And we want to spend the money on testing that is point of care, that is quicker, cheaper, results come back very fast. And that means it's a game changer. But instead, they have their ideological. Now, again, with schools, guess who pays for over 90% of the education, public education of our children? State and local government. So when you shortchange them, you shortchange the schools, you shortchange our children.
All right, we're going to end on this.
And then I'll just say, if I just may, Jake, I'm sorry. And I don't want to have to wait until the CR at the end of September for that. More people will die, more jobs will be lost. We have to try to come to that agreement now. All they have to do is recognize the need. We're willing to cut our bill in half to meet the needs right now. We'll take it up again in January. We'll see them in January. But for now, we can cut the bill in half.
Unfortunately, we're about to get the hook, but I did want to note it is the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment. You were the original first woman speaker. I know you considered stepping aside when everybody thought Hillary Clinton was going to win in 2016. Is there any election result in November where you could see yourself stepping aside as speaker, or should we expect another term with you atop House Democratic leadership?
Well, let us just say that I was, as you pointed out, Anna, did not think that the disaster that was about to befall our country would happen with the election result in 2016. I still was hopeful that it would be better. It would turn out better than it was. That is to say, even with the election of 45. But now, I mean, I'm on a mission. Let's put it that way. I'm not on a calendar. I'm on a mission. And our mission is to win so big this time that it assures our reelection in 2 years. Remember, when we lost in 10, it was an off year. When they won, when Clinton was president, it was an off year. When we won in 06, it was an off year for President Bush. Then when we lost in 10, it was an off presidential year. And then when we won again, it was an off presidential year. So getting ready for that right now, getting ready for a victory so deep. I'm not talking fast, I'm talking deep and fast, that we're not going to be vulnerable in the off year. And we'll see what I do when we go from here. You're starting to sound like my husband. How long are you doing this?
All right. Well, TBD. I appreciate you taking the question. Thank you all for tuning in to this Playbook special edition with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. And a big thank you again to the American Institute of Architects for sponsoring this conversation.
We're back tomorrow morning with more Plug-in at Playbook at 9 a.m. with Tim Kaine, the 2016 vice presidential nominee, senator from Virginia. That will be followed by another edition of the New Swing States Map with a focus on Pennsylvania and a reporter roundtable digging into Joe Biden's campaign and other issues driving the 2020 campaign cycle. Have a good day, and we will see you tomorrow morning.